G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Aussie Starcraft, where as promised we're bringing you some more of the amazing games from MLG's Game On. In this particular game, in the bottom left hand corner is our purple Terran, its complexity is QXC. In the top left hand corner of Frost is our golden Protoss, it's going to be Desrow. So it's going to be a Terran versus Protoss match on Frost. Of course this map affords us a number of interesting exciting possibilities, so we're keen to see what various strategies they employ, particularly QXC, well known for his drop play or multi-prong drop, so always plenty of options for that here on Frost, particularly being able to drop the natural and third base, or the natural and this side of the main base that's left quite exposed. Certainly a lot of different options, and from what we've seen of Desrow, some excellent Protoss play out of him as well. So always keen to see what players have in store, and particularly excited to see what these two showcase for us today. This is of course the losers match from Group C, so the winner of this match has an opportunity to go on versus Vibe for a spot in the round of 8. So one of these two players is going to have an opportunity to make it through into the round of 8, and that will of course be the 6th seed in the round of 8. So we still have Group D ahead of us tomorrow, and certainly some big names hiding out in Group D. We've got Scarlet, Major, Illusion and In Control. So plenty of excellent StarCraft 2 still ahead of us, and very excited to cast some of these games. Looks like QXC is going to go for the fairly standard refinery and barracks opening, allowing himself to get a Reaper should he so desire, or just go for a fairly quick factory in the event that he decides not to scout as proactively as many of our Terran choose to. Desrow going for a fairly standard gateway opening. I imagine we'll see a Nexus follow this in the not too distant future. Generally Protoss players feel fairly safe to expand quite quickly on Frost, particularly once they have the gas for their mothership core and their cybernetics core finishing up. So looks like QXC's going to scout in the right direction, so this is going to afford QXC the opportunity to throw down that quick factory. Doesn't need the Reaper per se, or doesn't need him as quickly as he might otherwise have. So he's going to throw down that quick factory and give himself the opportunity to progress his tech level much quicker. Unfortunately for Desrow, scouting out the wrong way, so it's going to be a lot longer before he gets any sort of read on his opponent, and by the time that probe makes its way across, this could well be walled in, or the Marine may well stop him getting up. So Desrow may be denied the early scout, but we'll see how he reacts to this. Throwing down his Nexus, and looks like we have the makings of a nice macro game on our hands. QXC, as usual, going a little bit more aggressive than you might expect. Terran players often would open up with a quick Nexus on this map. Looks like QXC is going to favour the 1-1-1 option. I really like that. I can understand the flexibility and the safety that the extra command centre provides, but I love the potential for aggression harassment that the 1-1-1 opening gives. Certainly going to give us some exciting early game play rather than a more prolonged or elongated mid game that we often see with the CC first opening. And curious to see just how QXC chooses to play out this particular opening. I actually have the Widow Mine burrowing between the ramp and the command center. I wonder if that's to stop any potential scout, or whether this is prepared ahead of some sort of potential Oracle defense, or whether it's going to be using this Widow Mine with the medevac. And it does look like QXC is going to go for the medevac route, so there's going to be a 1 Widow Mine, 5 Marine harass. It is a nice harass choice, mainly because the Protoss player tends to only have very select few defensive units. As you can see, 1 Stalker and 1 Mothership Core. The Mothership Core is staying on defense, but the Stalker already well and truly out on the map. So there's this short window of opportunity that QXC is seen here, where he's actually quite exposed. This Widow Mine could burrow and completely shut down the ability for this Stalker to return to its home base. So nice choice of harass from QXC. Actually going to be coming up for the main now that the Photon Overcharge has been forced at the expansion. QXC has a great opportunity to really press his hand here. Widow Mine going to take out another Stalker there, and that's going to leave these Marines open to harass the main base. Can they pick off this Mothership Core? That would be a great pickup for QXC, but even if he does nothing else, these Marines have already been rather cost effective with the denial of mining there, and the fact that there's nothing actually in play to detect this Widow Mine, so there could well be another Stalker going down any moment now. Robo facility only just going down, so we're still at least a minute away from any detection. This Widow Mine gonna kill another SCV. Desrow there playing sacrificial workers and just trying to keep his more expensive units alive. QXC going to try and muscle his way over this mothership core, but necessity to focus down the Stalkers that are firing at the Marines. Marines now getting picked up. Can QXC pick up the mothership core? Looks like splitting of the fire is going to leave both the Stalker and the mothership core on perilously low health. This Stalker does go down the high ground. The Widow Mine going to burrow again. Can he pick off the Stalker? And it looks like the Widow Mine will get underground. Still going to be 30 seconds or so before an observer. Will QXC get another kill here? It looks like Desrow is going to be very content to wait it out. And that harass was remarkably effective. 1,000 minerals lost for Desrow as opposed to the 500 of QXC. Certainly Desrow did have a little bit more to lose. His natural expansion already very well saturated as opposed to QXC, who's only just starting to grab his now. A few workers maynarding their way down there now. And income-wise, it looks like Desrow is going to have a rather rare advantage. So, interesting choice of opening for QXC. Looks like he's actually going to repair this medevac, get it straight back in the action. I like that choice from QXC, being relentless, knows that he does have some ground to make up here. QXC's expanded his production quite a bit. Now got 3 barracks, a factory and a starport on the way, so there's going to be plenty of units here to defend. These 4 Stalkers do actually have Blink already in place, so it looks like Desrow snuck that in while we were focused on the early QXC drop play, but potential to throw these up into the main base. The observer is here as well, and 4 Stalkers, important amount of Stalkers to note, as they can one-shot probe, so it's quite an effective little hit squad. Unfortunately for Desrow, has noted the amount of Stalkers and Marines in play and realised that it's probably a little bit more providential to pull back at this point in time. Though establishing a few proxy pylons ready to attack should he gain the opportunity. Another big drop in the main base. Well, not so much big, but well timed drop from QXC. You have 6 of these Marines continuing to be a thorn in Destrow's side, picking up the occasional worker kill or any units that sort of stray into their path. These Marines actually remarkably still alive as the medevac decides to play a vanishing game. Here it is, tucked over here in the corner. Thought for certain it was making its way to the main base. Unfortunately, medevac gonna get sniped there. So nice use of the observer from Desrow, allowing him to pick that medevac off. Looks like QXC is actually going to muscle his way out with quite a quick timing push right up. This is a substantial threat to a Protoss player. You note it's only a 12-minute mark. If we look at the units to have, and it's frequently the position a Protoss player end up in, there's only 5 Stalkers and 3 Zealots in position to defend this. And with the Marauders, unfortunately no Marauder slow, but Marauder's certainly able to do a lot of damage to this very small army. We do have 2 Templar on the field. Storm going to be finishing up in about 30 seconds. A chrono boost on that would be fairly providential. But it looks like QXC may well force the cancel on this 3rd base. So nice pressure from QXC. Actually going to be siege up this tank, and nice coverage of the ramp here. Going to allow QXC to get quite a lot of shots over on those Zealots. And you'll see the medevac was crucial in that, otherwise the siege tank would have done precious little in the engagement. But the same, oh no, it's actually the 2nd medevac. I was going to say that it was the same medevac as earlier, as QXC was spending the effort to try and keep those alive, repairing his medevacs, which is not something you actually see a lot of, or certainly not as something you'd see as much of as perhaps you'd expect. Probably because Terran find their gas units to be a little more expendable than other races. I mean that not in a conventional sense, but more so that Terran players tend to have a lot more gas than, say, Protoss or Zerg, and so Terran can readily afford to replace them, unlike other factions which are often very gas heavy and can't afford to replace them, as each unit costs so much gas, whereas Marines, Marauders almost entire. Oh, nice blink forward from Desrow here, actually going to pick off one of the medevacs and almost pick off a second. So nice little use of the blink there. The Marines and Marauders actually going to engage here and pick off 2 Stalkers for the trouble. But QXC has to be pretty careful. There's some high Templars here with plenty of energy. Storm could well be going down. The Marauders very tanky, able to eat those storms for breakfast, but certainly not wanting to spend too much time dancing in the rain there. Storm will eventually eat through their substantial health, and the Zealots and Stalkers certainly also pose a threat to the Marauders, but these 2 hero Marauders going to be sniping the High Templar, and they do get that one, but unfortunately pay the ultimate price there with their smoking corpses. Looks like QXC is going to try and move out for his 3rd base now, ahead of the 3rd base that's been sniped by QXC. So it looks like QXC's sort of recovered the initial issue initial income issue, where he was sitting a fair bit behind Desrow, but and a nice little scan there to pick up the observer. Always a big bonus when you can deny your opponent's vision. Desrow, though, fearlessly establishing some more proxy pylons, going to be continuing to warp in these zealots, but realizing the 3rd base isn't actually in the location he expected it to be in. It is in this slightly more vulnerable position. You can see that you can attack this expansion from either side, but the benefit for QXC in this base is precisely what we're seeing now. It's actually close to his line of attack. You see he's attacking north to south, so even if this base comes under fire, it's fairly easy for QXC to bring units across that are reinforcing and push back any harassing units. See QXC throwing up a supply depot wall. I love seeing Terran players that do that, making it that much harder for counter-attacking units to get in and eat your SCV lineup. Nice smart play there. You need the supply depots, may as well have them walling off. Unfortunately, the Zealots tend to streak in from the side that's currently exposed, though plenty of QXC's troops still in position here. Looks like he's grabbed that Marauder slow. Indeed he has. We have +2 weapons almost finishing up as well for QXC, +1 armor almost done as well. If we check out the upgrades tab momentarily, it's similarly 1-2 for the Protoss, so we have the mirror in upgrades along with Storm, Zealot, Legs and Blink. So nice bevy of upgrades for both our players. Extended thermal lance on the way as well, going to be very beneficial for those Colossi. You can see the reaction from QXC is to throw down a 2nd starport. Very important here, wanting to be able to produce both the Vikings and the medevacs, as the Colossi tend to trade exceptionally cost effective. Great engagement here from Desrow as he pushes out some of these Marines and Marauders, but unfortunately QXC's got the great splits here and is actually going to push his way into this natural expansion. So big warp in here in an attempt to save it. The Colossus is going to be in a great position, but unfortunately the Colossus getting caught. Oh, there's no sight of the high ground. QXC trying to snipe the Colossus as best he can. 2nd Colossus actually spawning right in front of these Marines and Marauders. Marauders going to muscle their way and kill both Colossi there, so big loss for Desrow there. Unfortunately not able to prevent those bio units from streaking out the ramp and wreaking havoc in his main base. This gateway is so close to going down. Will QXC focus down? Just needs one more shot. Unfortunately, leaving the gateway on 1 health there as the Marauders try to save themselves by focusing down the Zealots. Possibly the most tenuous link back to Ire we've ever seen, but the gateway will remain with 1 health, and QXC continuing to try and get active with that medevac, but nice feedback from the High Templars followed by the Stalkers is going to finish it off. So I really like the defensive play from Desrow in spite of QXC's talent, which is to split and multitask his army very effectively. Desrow likewise splitting his army super effectively, managing to have just enough units in each location to deter his opponents. As you well know, most Terran vs Protoss games, I was going to say deteriorate, but deteriorates sounds a little bit anticlimactic. I mean escalate. Most Protoss vs Terran games escalate in the Protoss' favour. They have more tier 3 units than any other race in their game, and as a result they tend to do better and better as the game goes on. Nice EMP from that Ghost is going to remove a lot of shields there, but it tends to be a case that the longer the game goes, the more Protoss players are favoured. So Protoss players tend to play a little bit of this waiting game as they get their 3 bases up and then fairly try to defend themselves while they safely max out on their 200 supply army. We'll see if Desrow is able to do that. QXC certainly demonstrating an amazing capacity to multitask and harass Desrow at every opportunity. We'll see if he's able to do that. We actually have QXC here trying to clean up the proxy pylons. Love this choice. You often don't see Protoss players invest the energy to do this, but QXC realising that those zealots been a consistent pain, so going to be putting the effort in here. This probe miraculously surviving. If I don't look at you, maybe you can't see me. Unfortunately, the Marauders could see him, and he's dead. But Blinkstalk is going to focus down the medevac, and unfortunately for the Marauders, their ride home has been taken out, so they're going to fall to the Stalkers and get mopped up quite neatly. So nice little bait and switch there with the probe being luring the Marauders in, and the Stalkers able to go in and provide the little 1-2 punch, take out the medevac and the Marauders that were inside it. So nice play out of both our players here as this game breaches the 20-minute mark and moves well and truly out of the mid game and towards the late game. We have both our players working on their late game composition. We have Colossi, High Templar and Immortals all on the field for Desrow. Perhaps the only criticism I'd have of Desrow's composition currently is he is hovering a lot of zealots, 17 zealots, 34 supply. It's a lot of supply that could be taken up with more tanky tier 3 units, though I imagine he will start to switch some of those out as his supply maxed out. Still about 30 supply behind QXC, so you've got to be very careful in the engagement here, particularly because he is on the low ground. Does want to get in this position. QXC can't force his way across the bridge here. It's just too much of a narrow choke point. Things like Storm and Colossus make that an absolute death trap. But he has to be very careful that he doesn't lose this top position to QXC. QXC can make life very difficult by holding the high ground above the expansion. Actually, I have Desrow being sneaky here with a few Stalkers. 2 Stalkers going to be denying mining down here. We can see it actually quite even. We have, well, actually not. We have QXC's killed 25 workers as opposed to the 5 that Desrow's managed to kill. QXC doing a good job to clean up that harass. We actually have a High Templar coming in for a storm drop. Unfortunately for the poor High Templar, the Marine survives and guns him down mercilessly. Protoss army going to continue to take up position here on the bridge, not wanting to leave this third base vulnerable, and this is super important for a Protoss player. Your third base is where you really start to feel the pressure from your opponent. Most pushes will be designed to take that out. We have QXC's Hero Marine here trying to gun down the Nexus and a few pylons that are supporting it. Desrow going to be moving out here. We have observers following QXC's army. I wonder if he's going to... Oh, nice storm there. Going to do some damage to the Vikings as well as some of the Marauders and Ghosts. If we check out the unit composition, we can see that it does look like... to the common observer, it will often look like this is still a fairly low tier army. What's important to know is the amount of Marines significantly reduced. Things like Marauders and Ghosts increased exponentially. As a result, this will do a lot better against the tier 3 Protoss Death Ball, and you might expect things like the snipes on the High Templar are going to be very important. Also, EMP is going to seriously deny the Protoss army a lot of his advantage. This one, Hero Marine's still going to town. He's got 2 probe kills and he's defying the entire Protoss army, and what was perhaps the goriest last stand this game's seen thus far. We have a few Zealots continuing to try and make life difficult in this expansion. Getting a couple extra kills there, but the bunker with the Marines in it going to be providing some defense for those poor SCVs. And gee, have they seen something? About half of them are on orange or yellow health, so it's not a good day to be an SCV. We have an engagement forming up here. The Vikings are in a great position, killing one of the Colossus outright. And there's not a lot that can threaten these Vikings, limited pretty much to Storms and a few Stalkers. There are 3 Archons here, but the Archons unfortunately on the wrong side of the Death Ball. Going to allow QXC to snipe those Colossi. So got to be very careful. This Viking count is substantial. 9 Vikings is very close to what it will take to one-shot a Colossus, depending on upgrades. So got to be careful here. We have another Archon moving in, and QXC going to come in for the harass. Knows there's a 4th base up here. He's on equal bases with his Protoss opponent. Certainly an uncomfortable position for a Terran player to be in. So you've got to be super careful, guys. You always want to be... Oh, nice EMPs going down there. Going to be doing a bit of damage to the Archon. Archon's very vulnerable without their shield. Only have 10 HP, so once that shield's gone, it's good night, Archons. Great angle actually for Desrow here. The Archons got a few preliminary shots on the Vikings. Unfortunately, unable to capitalize. 1 or 2 more focus fires might have completely cleaned the Vikings. Unfortunately, the Vikings did kill 2 more Colossus, and Desrow is going to be forced back yet again. It's 180 supply to 162, and QXC actually first one to grab a base on the other side of the map, so continuing to expand behind this aggression. He does have a lot of units here. Notice the Cloak Ghost already in position to sneak up and EMP the army. But Desrow's got these full energy ghosts here, certainly going to be very vulnerable to the... full energy High Templar are going to be very vulnerable to the ghosts, and Desrow was hoping to use these to sneak up and storm the main Terran army. Unfortunately, QXC very on top of it with his ghost positioning. Ghost going to allow him to pick off all of those High Templar. A few Zealots going to force the lift off here and delay mining just a little bit more. Had a ghost, looked like a ghost actually camped out by the Vespene Geyser. You can't see me, but I can kill plenty of your workers. 6 workers killed already for the Corporal Ghost, and he's showing how you do work. So going to continue to chase this Protoss army around. Can he pick off the High Templar? These High Templar continuing to leave themselves very vulnerable. I think that Desrow needs a few more workers here. QXC actually managing to move in, snipe that base with this substantial Marauder drop here. Nice play from QXC, though most of his army is red health and very vulnerable to being cleaned up here. The Archon splash damage particularly doing a lot of damage. Not enough Stalkers, unfortunately, to blink on top of those. Is going to allow the Medivacs to get away. And this Ghost just continuing to plug away, actually shooting the Vespene guys. So perhaps not what he would like to be focusing down. He is going back to work on these workers. Cannon here is certainly going to help out, but how many more kills can the Ghost get? Is up to 9, 10 kills now, so certainly make himself very, very useful here, though I feel his life expectancy is diminished greatly in the last few moments. We almost can't see him under all these immortals. As soon as an observer shows up, it is going to be horrendous news for him. Actually up to 16 kills though. It is amazing that we haven't seen observer, and there it goes. Poor Ghost, the most verbal death vocals of any unit in the game. I was actually on the arcade before, and for those of you that are familiar with the game Income Wars, was playing a hilarious game of that, in which it seemed like both sides were actually pretty much mono battling ghosts. And if you've ever wanted to listen to 5 minutes worth of ghosts dying back to back, that was pretty much the experience I had on the arcade. It was hilarious, but certainly takes the cake for the most vocal death note in StarCraft 2. Looks like Desrow's starting to stabilise. He's been hovering a fairly constant 150-160 supply. Fairly active with his warp-in counterattacks, but Desrow trying to make a comment about Protoss. Not sure quite what he's going for there. We have the Terran army backed up in the main base. I'm a little bit concerned about QXC's positioning here. Is going to be great for the Vikings, but not so great for the ground units, which are going to be pinned here for the Colossus to focus fire down. Unfortunately, the Archon's caught behind. A lot of EMP is going to go down and make this a great engagement for QXC. So QXC really turning a weakness to a strength there. All the Immortals have been have had their shields removed, and so these Terran units are going to be able to tear through the remainder of those. And you see the Protoss army force a massive retreat here. An Archon drop is a little bit terrifying though. 15 kills on that Archon. The Colossus is going to come across to mop up the remainder of those, and that expansion's certainly seen better days. So in a fell swoop, we have Desrow equalising the workers killed tab. Well, equalising. More like making some headway, but QXC's harass has been singularly fantastic in this game. 50 workers killed thus far. We are getting across the half an hour mark in this game, so certainly moving on to the longer games we've seen on Frost. It tends to be a map where most players can only secure 2 or 3 bases, and out of necessity the game tends to only go for about 20 minutes to half an hour, but these players just relentlessly trading blows here. The Ghost composition just insane at the moment. 16 Ghosts from QXC, and this is really what's allowing QXC to deal with the late game Protoss composition. Terran players know and take a lesson from this. Most Terran players relentless with their Marine Marauder Medivac, occasionally sprinkling some Widow Mines depending on what faction they're versing, but it's just so important to use these Ghosts, and you can see what QXC is doing. Sometimes it's a Medivac drops, sometimes it's just a stray Ghost wandering in doing a lot of damage. QXC's damage to Desrow's economies come from all sorts of different sources, so very important to vary your harassment, makes it much more effective. See, the Colossus and Archon is actually going to be a little bit terrifying in this Bioforce. It's massive splash damage, particularly on biological units, of which virtually everything in the Terran arsenal is biological. But Desrow has to be super careful here. He's hovering only 110 supply, warping in lots of units for counterattack, but his army supply itself suffering a lot, and QXC's 5th base is operational here in the corner. So Desrow has to be very careful he doesn't fall behind the income. He is down to 2 mining bases, well, more like 1.5. No minerals being mined here. I mean, see, QXC with a massive bank, actually 7,000 minerals in the bank. So actually massive economy sitting behind us, looking very difficult for Desrow. We'll see if he can stabilize here, but it looks like QXC is very much dictating the pace of this game at the moment. QXC able to remax several times over, and surprisingly little production for the bank that he's hovering. He does have about 9 barracks, which is substantial for this stage of the game, but certainly can continue to afford maxing out time and time again. So Desrow got to be very careful. I don't know that I'd be pushing Desrow's position. Really needs to get a little bit of extra supply. The consistent EMP really hurting the Immortals. They can't hide behind their hardened shields. The EMP removes it straight away, so got to be super careful. And QXC fairly consistently tracking this force. The Ghosts are relentlessly harassing this army, picking off High Templars and Immortals like they were, well, more like Zerglings, and just QXC showing how to play late game Terran here at MLG's Game On. So we often see Protoss armies particularly suffer in the mid game, but then trounce Terran opponents in the late game. But QXC showing that even with the economic deficit, you can really get stuck into the Protoss player, mess with their economy, and just boil them down with these slightly higher tech bioforces. Really great use of the Ghost from QXC. Big fan, particularly of his activity with the Cloak Ghosts. Did a great job of moving around and plucking off things like the High Templar, things like extraneous workers, wherever he could find them, just picking off left, right, and centre. This base going down now for Desrow is certainly going to be one of the nails in Desrow's coffin. He's down to 1 mining base. And QXC giving Desrow a little bit of a hard time. Desrow, there's shots fired. So QXC being a little bit sassy here. He knows he's in a dominating position. Very seldom that in a competitive game we'd see 11k minerals in the bank, but QXC not letting his game slip at all. Going to be very carefully engaging here, picking off the expensive units. Things like the Immortals being focus fired very quickly. The Cloaked Ghost certainly going to be picking off the remainder of those, and Desrow GG's out of the game. So this series is going to go to QXC, 2-1. So nice play out of both our players. Desrow unfortunately falling a little bit behind the harassment of QXC. QXC consistently active with those drops, something he's very well known for. Played it out so very well, frequently almost for the entirety of that 40-minute game, had active drops going, either moving, coming, or going from the various locations. I think it shows in the amount of bases that he was able to snipe. So, excellent game from QXC. We're looking forward to seeing him go up against Vibe. He will be facing off against Vibe for the finals match, and one of those two players will progress to the round of 8. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this series. We've enjoyed casting it. If it's your first time on Aussie StarCraft, by all means, please subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see you here in the future. Do our very best to bring you some of the greatest Heart of the Swarm games out there. It's a big month for it. We've got Game On, we've got IEM on this month, we've also got Asus ROG, so there's so many tournaments, so much StarCraft. Can't get it all in one place, but we'd love to cast as much of it here for you as we can. So by all means, go ahead and share these games with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, whatever social media you use, and we certainly love to entertain you as best we can. So hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you all in the next cast. Thanks guys, this is Aussie StarCraft signing out.